Good Sunday to you. I'm Mike Naso with the latest tropical update video on our tropical storm Isaias. This is a satellite of North America, the Caribbean, the Atlantic, and this starts about a week ago when we had Hurricane Hanna there over Texas as a strong Category 1 hurricane, and then we had Isaias come right up and is now off the coast of Florida. Check this out as I put it into motion. You can see the progression of Hanna, and then here comes Isaias moving on up over Hispaniola, over the central Bahamas, and there it sits now. It has been one heck of a week for the end of July and early August, and this is certainly so far an active hurricane season, and we have no better example of that than Tropical Storm Isaias. Here's the latest on Isaias as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time from the National Hurricane Center. It was at 26.3 north, 79.5 west, winds of 65. It's moving much slower now, northwest at 9, and it is not expected to become a hurricane again. It's expected to remain a moderate to strong tropical storm and be very near the coastline of Florida later tonight and tomorrow morning, and then turn north by tomorrow afternoon, and then make landfall in South Carolina as a tropical storm, maybe North Carolina, sometime late on Monday, early Tuesday, and then jettison on off to the northeast and be over New England by Wednesday. Nevertheless, we still have watches and warnings. Some good news to report, though. The hurricane warning on the east coast of Florida has now been replaced with a tropical storm warning. But we still do have a hurricane warning in effect for Bimini, the Berry Islands, and Grand Bahama Island, just because they are on the right side of this tropical storm, and they could definitely have hurricane force gusts, and you never know. There's always that slim possibility a good burst will get those winds back to hurricane force. Tropical storm warnings from Hollandale Beach to South Santee River, South Carolina, including Lake Okeechobee. So now it's just the entire coast there preparing for tropical storm conditions. Here's the latest infrared satellite imagery, and you can see it burst, and then it burst again, and then it burst again. It tried really hard to become a hurricane. It's just not in a favorable environment. There's too much dry, stable air, and most importantly, it's getting sheared like crazy. 25 knots of wind shear, just decapitating it. The actual center is right about in there, right off the coastline of Florida, and all the convection is off to the east. Nevertheless, heavy rain over Grand Bahama Island, which was hit by a Category 5 hurricane less than a year ago. You can see the track forecast here is pretty straightforward. It could make landfall briefly in Florida or scrape right along the coast, but a landfall in the Carolinas is almost a given now. So if you live in South Carolina, North Carolina, you guys need to be ready for any potential impact from Tropical Storm Isaias. The radar imagery out of Miami, it looks, you could tell where the circulation center is. It's actually right here based on the hurricane center plot. So if it moves northwest, that's going to be really close to coming ashore. So we may actually have an official landfall later today in Florida. But again, a lot of the heaviest weather right now is over Grand Bahama Island this morning, and they don't need it. Too much prolonged rain could cause flooding, and the gusty winds, certainly 30, 40 mile per hour sustained winds, very possible. And that's why you're under those advisories, including a hurricane warning right now. Another view of it from the long-range radar, this is out of Fort Lauderdale. Look at that right there. You can see it almost looks like it got a little better organized, but just not enough to become a hurricane. You can see, though, some bands moving here south of Vero Beach. It's going to be a real gloomy day along the Florida coastline, so there ain't going to be no beach going today, I wouldn't say. Rainfall is a big threat. You can see right up the East Coast. And remember, it's going to be slow today, slow tomorrow, but by Wednesday morning, this thing's going to be in New Hampshire and Maine. So it'll eventually make that move on off towards the northeast, but we got to deal with it now. The heaviest rain, as I mentioned, over Grand Bahama Island, certainly a flood threat there, and then kind of moving right up along the coastline of Florida. Water rises. Now, this we talked about before for Florida, but look at this here. From Edisto Beach, South Carolina, up to Cape Fear, 2 to 4 feet. Remember, if you're on the right side of a tropical cyclone and you have the counterclockwise rotation, you have that onshore flow. And so you're going to have water rises there along the South Carolina coastline. So Edisto Beach, Hilton Head, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Cape Fear. You guys got to be ready in low-lying areas for some potential flooding. And you have crashing waves on top of that. Just a nasty end of the weekend and the start of the week. I wouldn't go to the beach. I'd just stay in, watch a movie, chill out, and hope that the winds don't get too strong, because then if you lose power, you can't even watch a movie. You have to read a book. And if you don't have lights, it just becomes a big problem. So let's just hope that you're ready with your hurricane kits, because if this season keeps up, Isaias ain't nothing compared to what could be coming down the pike. Ugh. Look at this infrared satellite imagery. It really looks bad. I mean, there's no hurricane shape to it. You can clearly see, look at this here, the center I showed you on the radar is over here. And all of the deep convection with the heaviest rain is over Abaco and Grand Bahama Island. That is well displaced to the northeast of the center, and that's because of wind shear. Look at this wind shear map. This is insane. If there was a hurricane centered right here, south of Cuba, it would have like the greatest ventilation I have ever seen in the history of tropical cyclones. But it's not. Isaias is centered right here off Florida, and that means that this is shearing 25 knots at least, maybe 30 knots, right into it, and that's why it just couldn't stay a hurricane and hasn't strengthened. It really tried. The waters are hot enough, believe you me, and it's August, but that wind shear, it's an important thing. It shreds in the upper levels. The clouds try and build up, and then whew, the wind shear rips it apart. So thank goodness for that, because we don't want a hurricane landfall in Florida. Here are the key messages for Isaias as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time from the Hurricane Center. Number 1, tropical storm conditions will continue across portions of the Bahamas through today. Number 2, those same tropical storm conditions expected to spread northward along the east coast of Florida within that warning area through early tomorrow. And that's going to spread north to Georgia, South Carolina. Georgia, we don't mention you much. Georgia, you're going to get it hit too, so be on alert. Number 3, dangerous storm surges possible from the Florida East Coast from Jupiter Inlet northward, and then very heavy rains and potential life-threatening floods across the northwest Bahamas and along the East Coast. And finally, number 5, tropical storm watches are in effect for portions of South and North Carolina, and it is likely we'll have additional watches and warnings because Isaias is expected to move on up. And again, that's going to be a factor here, just how strong it is. It's probably going to remain a mid-range tropical storm, but still, water rises, gusty winds, crashing waves, just a nasty situation there. So that'll do it this morning for Isaias. It's right off the coast of Florida as a mid-range tropical storm expected to possibly make landfall or at the very least move up the coast, and then we'll eventually see it make that northeastward turn and head up and out, but not before causing some problems. We have an invest area here that's going to take a turn like that and could become a tropical storm the next few days. Bermuda, keep an eye on that. And then we're going to watch what comes off of Africa in the coming weeks because hurricane season 2020 is heating up. Right now, the focus is on Isaias over the Bahamas, moving towards the northwest, tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings in effect. I'm Mike Nasel with the latest on our tropical storm, and I'll see you guys next time.